Hello everyone, welcome back to another class in math science. In our previous class, we were able to create multiple bubbles inside of one bubble. And in this particular class, we'll be carrying out yet another interesting experiment titled an elephant toothpaste. Elephant toothpaste is a foamy substance that is caused by the quick separation of hydrogen peroxide using either potassium iodide or yeast, and warm water as well as a catalyst. How quickly this reaction occurs is dependent on the quantity of hydrogen peroxide that is used. This experiment is sometimes called an elephant toothpaste because it looks like a toothpaste coming out from a tube. Before we carry out this experiment, you should know the meaning of a chemical reaction and also a catalyst. A chemical reaction is a process where one or more substances are converted into one or more different substances. And a catalyst is a substance that is used to speed up the rate of a reaction. So the goal of this experiment is to illustrate an exothermic reaction. That is why in this class activity, you will be carrying out an elephant toothpaste experiment that will help you better understand this reaction. So for us to carry out this interesting elephant toothpaste experiment, we will need to gather the following items. We will need a plate of yeast, a bottle of hydrogen peroxide, funnel, teaspoon, and also a cup of warm water. We will also need a syringe, an empty plastic plate or a tray, bottles of different food color, an empty plastic bottle, a pair of cups, and lastly, you will need adult supervision. Some additional materials you will need for this experiment are liquid dish soap, safety goggles, and of course, a pair of gloves. So the first step to begin with this experiment is to measure half of a cup of hydrogen peroxide. So that's probably the whole bottle of our hydrogen peroxide. And then we empty that into our plastic bottle with the aid of our funnel. So you do this carefully. So when that is done, the next thing to do is to pour some liquid dish soap into it. The next thing is to put some food coloring into the bottle. And you do this by using the syringe. So that's our blue color. I'm going to mix the next color, which is yellow. We'll just add the last color, which is red, to our mixtures. So afterwards, with our empty plate or our tray, you place your bottle into it. So after we're done with mixing all of this, we can set this aside for a moment and then mix our yeast. But before we do that, we pour some quantity of warm water into our other plastic cup. This quantity is fine. Then, with our plate of yeast and our teaspoon, you measure about 2 teaspoons of yeast. That's the first one. And then the second one. And then you begin to mix it with the warm water. So you continue to mix until the yeast is completely dissolved in water. So after we've stirred and our yeast is now completely dissolved in warm water, the next thing to do is to bring back our plastic bottle that contains liquid dish soap, hydrogen peroxide, and food color. And then we're going to pour the yeast into all of these mixtures. So you can see this is how our elephant toothpaste looks like. So you can see why it is important for you to use either an empty tray or an empty plate. Wow, that was quite an interesting experiment, wasn't it? So how about we discuss what really went on behind the scenes? The foam that was produced during the course of the experiment is extra special because those tiny bubbles contain oxygen. Earlier on we said that yeast acted as the catalyst. So when added, it immediately separates the oxygen from the hydrogen peroxide. And because this happens so fast, lots and lots of bubbles were created in the process. After going through the experiment, you will notice that the container got warm, and this happens because of a reaction called an exothermic reaction. An exothermic reaction is a chemical reaction that releases energy in form of heat to its surroundings. The foam that was produced is just water, soap and oxygen, but ensure that you don't get it into your mouth because that could be dangerous to your health. Now that we've come to the end of this class, you've learned how to make a giant elephant toothpaste with some chemical mixtures. You've also learned that an exothermic reaction is what occurs by releasing energy in form of heat to its surroundings. And that is all for this wonderful class. I'll see you in the next one.